What happens when our access to books is limited, whether by one's disability, by restricted availability, or by censorship, book bans, challenges? And let's face it, there are factions that are in opposition to free speech and inclusion in many different forms. Our guest here today for the Book Fest, somebody very special, is Lisa Engel. Lisa is an author as well as an avid reader. Plus, Lisa, your talents include filmmaking. You founded 90 Degrees Media, and you've been involved in board positions with organizations like the Writers and Publishers Network. And you are also someone who is legally blind. So I'm very honored that you're going to be speaking to us today because you have many different perspectives on this topic, and I think it's something that we can definitely unpack. So, Lisa, thank you for being here.
Well, thank you for inviting me. I love the Book Fest, and I think it gives a great service for readers and writers alike.
Yeah, exactly. And, when 6 months ago, I don't know if we could have predicted that we were in a place where we were talking about this topic in this particular way. And I think we just need to start talking about some of the limitations that might be impacting readers. Can you talk a little bit about what you might be foreseeing or predicting on the horizon?
Well, just today I was seeing in the news that we're looking at budget cuts for the PBS and NPR, and um, I I I've listened to them. So I've gone to listening to individual podcasts actually, but still, I grew up on Sesame Street and watching those things. There was actually a show called Zoom on PBS. So I mean, uh, and I have made a lot of use out of the Library of Congress has um, this a reading service for the blind, and I haven't even taken full advantage of it, but over the last 50 years, I have definitely made quite a use out of the talking book service that they have. Because for myself, I can read regular print, but it's very, very slow going. And there are people that even if they have perfect vision, maybe they're dyslexic, and it makes it very hard to read. And I just thought about with all the cuts to the different uh, uh, government programs, what if they cut out this talking book program? You know,
Yeah.
I wouldn't. There are, there are libraries. There's the Libby app, but then again, who knows?
Yeah, I think that's really important because a lot of times folks don't quite realize how something like, oh, there's going to be budget cuts. Well, great, we're cutting the budget. That's going to save everybody money. And then you don't realize the ramifications and how it impacts people down the road. And, you're very astute in pointing out, well, if there's cuts and if they're cutting this program, are they going to cut this program? It almost feels like we're inadvertently just going down the slippery slope. And different people with various abilities, you're right. Some people who are dyslexic might not necessarily, they might be able to see the words, but it might be easier for them to listen to a book, talk to them, or listen to an audiobook. And that's a whole nother discussion. But I'm curious too, because there's a lot of different factions to this. So, okay, we're talking a little bit about, if there's funding that's shut down and how that can impact people. Another important aspect of this is I know, for example, you love listening to YA, young adult novels. And I know you mentioned too how you enjoy how different underrepresented communities, non-binary folks, autistic characters are represented. Can you talk a little bit about how it's important for us, for everybody to be able to see themselves in characters in books?
Well, it's very important. I mean, and people talk about that too, as far as even uh, movies and TV shows. The only TV show sometimes I tell people I live under a rock, so maybe I'm missing them. But the only one I can think of is the WB put out that TV series In the Dark that had a main character that was totally blind. And you don't see that very much. And you don't see, I remember back in the 90s, I think it was, they had a TV series, Life Goes On, with a developmentally disabled main character. And just being able to see yourself, I mean, and we've done a lot of work in the last at least in the last 50 years, a lot of work getting different racial representations out there. And that's great. But these days, there's even more different kinds of racial representations that, you can't just look at somebody and know who they are. And this one book, like you said, I like YA, and this year it seems like I have been, I don't know why, but just I've been drawn to more lighter reads. And so I've been listening to a lot of romance and YA. And one author that stands out is, uh, I don't know what the author's pronouns are, but the name is Ray Stovey, Stoeve. And uh, the one book was about a trans boy and just his experience of transitioning, and it's something that maybe some parents might be afraid of, but it actually was very kind of vanilla in just the ways of introducing. He had to introduce his friends to the fact that he wanted a different pronoun, and just that whole experience, and having another kid to be able to read that and see that, and go, well, gee, maybe I'm not alone, and that kind of thing. And another book was just amazing. The main character was actually the most normal character in the book. I think it's called The Summer Love Strategy, and it even dealt with the different things. One of the characters was demisexual. They needed to have a before they could feel a romantic feeling, they had to feel a closer connection on a different level. So there's all different people out there, and you even need to know about these people, because even if you're not on the spectrum or have a different dating strategy, then if you read about these people, you have a better understanding of them, and you won't be quite as afraid if maybe your best friend comes out to you as asexual. And, it takes away a little bit of that fear, this reading and ingesting this entertainment.
I think you're absolutely right, Lisa. Empathy is something that we all need nowadays, maybe even more so than ever. One of the things that we are going to talk about, and I'll discuss that towards the end, is National Library Weeks, Drawn to the Library. It's Right to Read Day, which is happening on Monday, April 7th. And, the whole idea there is there are folks who are after librarians and libraries and trying to implement book bans and book challenges. And the crazy thing is that a lot of those types of books that are being challenged and banned tend to be about the LGBTQ plus community and folks that have feminist points of view, or folks that are by people of various colors, various religions. So it seems like there is a concerted effort against books that advocate for diversity and inclusion. I'm curious, Lisa, because you mentioned fear. You brought up fear. several times actually. Can we talk a little bit about fear? It seems to me one of the things that's happening right now is people are afraid to even speak up because of what could happen to them. What are your thoughts about fear and speaking up or not speaking up?
Well, I get it. I do. I get it. And um, I definitely understand how, you know, this is the main reason why I think people are uh, wanting to ban books is because they are afraid. And um, I'm afraid. Everybody's afraid. It's it's a natural uh, reaction. It's a natural emotion. If we didn't have fear, then um, we who knows, we might jump off a cliff if we aren't afraid of it. But still, we need to figure out how we can get around that fear. And one of the ways to get around that fear is to try something, to actually take a look at something and not just dismiss it. To some people might say, I've heard I've heard this, that if you open your mind too much, your brain will fall out. And I think that's the mentality that some people have.
Yeah,
Whereas, if you open the door, you might have a bunch of evil come in. Well, it's where you have to just make sure that you are well educated.
yeah,
And I think education is probably the crutch for fear.
yeah. And what holds up education in general a lot of times is books. So I always wonder about the hidden agenda and the motivation for some folks to want to tell other people's what they can and cannot read and try to tell folks, you're right. You should be afraid of thinking of other ideas because these ideas might do something bad to you. I don't think anybody who has even half a brain is that fragile in their thinking that opening up their mind to other ideas, to other folks, to other people, to other religions, to all the other beautiful things that we are as humanity. I don't think anybody has to be afraid of that, in my opinion. Um, so great advice there. I'm curious. Can we talk a little bit about you being a writer as well? Because as much as you love to read, I know that you love to write, and you're very talented at it. Can you talk about your latest book, Whiskey and Old Stogies?
Yeah, that is the it's I'm working on the second book now. You know how writers tend to um take a long time between books. So but yeah, I try to include um characters of different types of characters, and I've tried one thing I wish I had had a little bit more access to is more beta readers of diverse beta readers. I have an African American character, and so I wanted African American beta readers, and unfortunately, they just the people I sent it to just were too busy. Their jobs were too demanding. Um, but I think that that's an important thing as a writer. I don't believe. See, now I'm female, and I wrote that story from a male point of view, and so that's where I believe that one of the important things for a writer to have is good alpha and beta readers. The first readers, and then the people who read it before it goes to publication, so that you can get input from different people of different persuasions. And I made sure that I asked male beta readers, does this come off appropriate. This is getting off topics. I'm sorry. But I wish I had actually put, and in the second book that I'm working on, I am planning on including more diverse characters with more like disabilities and even and different perspectives. One of the characters in this book I'm working on is actually gay and Christian at the same time. So I think that that's a underrepresented community. But I think getting input from other people is important when you're doing that.
Absolutely. Beta reader is such an important topic. Actually, tomorrow during the Book Fest, Brandy June is going to be talking about getting better beta readers. So that's something that people can check out. And I think having that person, whether it's you because you wrote in the voice of a man, or somebody who is writing characters of, to your point, all the different persuasions, having somebody who can maybe read through the eyes of being a sensitivity reader, for example, and basically making sure that you're getting certain aspects of it right. Sure, there are plenty of gay Christian people in the community. You might not hear of it quite so often because they don't necessarily have the voice, but there are indeed all sorts of different types of folks out there, and having that representation is so important. I'm curious, Lisa, being a legally blind writer, and one of the things I notice, even in your book title, you're relying on the senses. How is it when you're writing, do you rely on the senses? Because when I think of whiskey and old stogies, I can smell the cigar, right? And I can, well, I don't really taste a lot of whiskey, but I can kind of taste it, you know? So I can tell you're kind of pulling in on the senses. Can you talk about that a little bit, please?
Well, I don't think I really don't think of that as being something that I do because of limited vision. Because I think that that is important for all writers, um, is to pull from all the senses, and it's important so that you don't want to just tell people what the characters are looking at. You want to actually make them feel like they're there. And that's what I strive for, is to make people feel like they are there with the character. And I actually try to appeal more to the emotions and you know but I like to include smells and tastes. Tastes are very important. I know a lot of people write about food. Food is a very big part of literature, it seems like.
Yeah, absolutely. And congratulations, I must say, on the book Whiskey and Old Stogies becoming longlisted for the 2021 Mark Twain Book Awards for Human and Satire. That's quite an accomplishment, Lisa.
Thanks. Yeah,
Yeah.
especially indie published.
Yeah, and that's another aspect too. I mean, it's really great nowadays that we have the ability to write and publish on our own, or maybe through a small press or a small publisher. So congratulations on that. Can you tell us a little bit? We got a little bit of time left. Can you tell us a bit about your company as well, your 90 Degrees Media that you founded?
Well, I tell people I named it 90 Degrees Media because I'm the right angle to help you write and sell your story. And so um, sometimes people are very anxious to get their work out there. And I've talked to people who have actually put their stuff up there on Amazon, and then they contact me and say, "Can you help me promote my book?" And then I go and I look at the book and I say, well, maybe you need to unpublish it and get it edited more. um, but so I like to help people promote their books, but I also like to have them be the best book that they can before they're published. And with a lot of the indie publishing these days, it is, and it's hard too, because I gotta say, I've made so much use out of these talking books that the Library of Congress has developed. But I had my own. I hired a reader and had my own book put onto an audiobook, and I submitted it to them. They haven't picked it up yet, but because they do take from publishers, and I don't even know if they. I think they do indie published books too, but trying to get, as an indie author, trying to get your book, even if you have produced it as an audiobook, trying to get it into libraries is, we're talking about access, and it's just, but as long as you have an ebook, I got to tell you this one antidote is that when I launched my book, I did a launch party. It was 2021, so I did it through Zoom. And one of the people who showed up was a totally blind friend. And I told him, I'm sorry, I won't be able to do an audiobook for a while. And he said, oh, no problem. I didn't even realize he probably uses the ebooks. As long as it's published as an ebook, he can have the ebook reader read it to him. So at least we do have that as indie published authors. We do have that kind of technology that's good for us. But my mission is to help people get their book as well written as possible, and then be able to get it as widely read as possible.
It's amazing the technology that we do have nowadays. I know that I listen to a lot of books that aren't audiobooks because you're right. I can do it right from Word nowadays, and you can do it from a PDF as well. Now, it might still kind of be a robot sounding voice, but if I'm doing dishes or something, I can still listen and get the gist of it. Um, Kind of curious thoughts because there's a lot of controversy right now about AI being able to voice books. On the one hand, for folks like you, that's got to be great to think, oh, I could get some really, juicy books that I couldn't, might not necessarily be able to listen to otherwise because there is no audiobook version, and I don't necessarily want to listen to robot voice in Word. But I'm just kind of curious your thoughts on that, because on the other end of that spectrum, it's a little bit scary to think that AI voiced books might be replacing real humans to do the voiceover. Thoughts on that?
Well, I'm not in favor of it being a replacement. I definitely think that humans can do the performance for an audiobook a lot better than an AI. I mean, I have just for just out of boredom once. I know I surfed YouTube for some of these. I think it was celebrity documentaries, and the AI voices, you could just tell that they were narrated by AI, and and that's fine if that's all there is, and if that's the access that you can get. But I do think that I prefer a human to perform the book.
Yeah, yeah. Lisa, this has been such a great conversation. I promised earlier that we would talk to folks a little bit about the National Library Week, and they're calling it Drawn to the Library, which is so important. And I think, to your point, being able to support and uplift our friends at the libraries on the Right to Read Day, which is coming up. It's Monday, April 7th. You can join us and so many others as we celebrate the right to read and spotlight the other freedoms that we are potentially losing when libraries and library workers are actually attacked and feel that they might be threatened. The Drawn to Freedom, that includes the freedom to read, the freedom to access information, the freedom to find community, the freedom to see ourselves in books represented. All of these opportunities are what libraries provide. So if folks want to get some more information, you can find out in the virtual gift bag that we're giving away at the end of the book fest. You can also visit the our friends at Unite Against Book Bans. They do have a link. We'll put the link in the chat as always. There's a link on the BookFest website, or you can go directly to their website as well and join us in helping to celebrate and uplift everybody in the Drawn to Freedom Right to Read Day. Lisa, as we leave here, I'm just wondering, do you have any closing thoughts or advice to readers, to writers, to anybody out there who might have fear holding them back from writing or from doing the thing that they're impassioned about? Any final thoughts for us, Lisa?
I am just very thankful that I've can listen and I can read and I can get all sorts of. I'm very thankful for libraries and for books. I really am.
Thank you, Lisa. Lisa Engel, an author, filmmaker, a reader herself, founder of 90 Degrees Media, and an advocate for accessibility in literature. Thank you so much for joining us on the BookFest. Appreciate you. And everybody, stand by. More adventures await. It's the BookFest Spring 2025.